You good?
Alright, Shalom, brothers. First and foremost, we want to give all praises to Yahweh Shemi Shai. Give double honors to the apostles, GMS, the great millstone, if you will, and salutations to you co-laborers out there on the highways and byways that's noising this gospel abroad with us on the four corners of the earth. Alright, I'm with the brother Amos, man. We just here in the town or whatever, just putting in some work, man. Putting out some information for you brothers, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemi Shai. So this lesson we probably entitled the war on people, because there's a war that's being waged on primarily the Israelites that are upon the earth, man. And the way that it's being waged is being done. It's sneak attacks. Esau calls it a guerrilla warfare system. Where you run up and you sneakily plant a bomb or something like that, a roadside bomb, and kill a couple people. But it's just the way Esau's tactics are, man. He comes smiling in your face, but in his heart is war, man. But he's executing this, man, to a T. So you gotta have discernment to know what's going on. So one thing that I was getting into earlier this week. You know, scripture was you speak with a forked tongue. It says speak with a forked tongue. Try to Google it. But I was watching this week some interesting facts, man. So since 2001, America has waged the war on the so-called war on terror, and in this war on terror, Esau has spent $6 trillion in the war in Iraq and in the war in Afghanistan alone. That's just not to mention the bombings in Yemen and all other places where they've been doing operations. But in the war in Iraq and the war in Yemen, they've spent $6 trillion alone in fighting this so-called war on terror. Now, that's to break that down, that's $75,000 per household. So that's $75,000 that could have went to every household for whatever reasons. All right, so since then, since before 2001, Iraq was reported to have one suicide bombing prior to September 11. Now, when you look at the statistics, the statistics of suicide bombing is increased 4,500%. Not 10%, not 100%, 100-fold, but 4,000% fold. So these suicide bombings is something that you being an American, listening to the American media, would think that was just a lifestyle or a thing of Ishmael. That's what Ishmael was doing. He's all about that suicide bombing. But so since the war on, so when Esau declares a war on something, he's the main perpetuator behind what he's doing. He pushes it out there like he's doing it to stop this terror, but he's the one that's creating this terror, man. He's doing all these attacks, and whether if they be legitimacy, it be from this. I seen this one video I mentioned a lot, but this one video of this guy in Afghanistan. He said, "Look, man, we want nothing." Iraq. He said, "We didn't want nothing to do with this war. We didn't want to fight people. Nobody really wanted to fight. But when you constantly hear stories of your cousin being killed by American military, and then your aunt died, and then another nephew died. At one point in time, you're gonna grab your AK-47 and try to go out and kill the next American that you see, man. So America is creating these so-called terrorists, or creating these extremists. The Quran is bullshit. It's been around for 1,300 years, but so-called radicalized Islam has been around for roughly 20 years, man. So how Esau will make things seem through his media, and we're gonna get into some other things, other topics like the war on poverty, which was declared by Lyndon B. Johnson in his first inauguration. He declared an all-out war on poverty. Matter of fact, we got an article. You want to bring something out real quick?
No.
Okay. Read this article for me, bro. This is okay. Here it is right here. I mean, all these wars, again, not just a war on poverty. There's been a war, and when you look at the statistics from the 50s, Jake is, and this is with all the athletes and the Mayweathers of the world and the sports entertainer, Jake is in a bad financial state now than it was back then, man. So all that war on poverty was to keep Jake in that cycle of dependency to where they would remain in that state that they're in, man. Go ahead.
All right, so this is from Fact Tank, News and the Numbers. It says, who's poor in America, 50 years into the war on poverty, a data portrait. So it says, 50 years ago, President Lyndon Johnson used his first State of the Union address to urge all-out war on the human poverty and unemployment in these United States. The war on poverty, as the set of social programs enacted in 1964 through 1965 came to be called, was arguably the most ambitious domestic policy initiative since the Great Depression. But for decades, politicians and social scientists have argued about whether Johnson's anti-poverty programs have lifted people out of the destitution, trapped them in cycles of dependency, or both.
You see, it says trap them in the cycles of dependency. So just Esau don't do things just for no reason. When Esau set forth his agenda of welfare, right, of Section 8, right, of food stamps, of cash benefits, making the woman the head of the household, right, he don't just he does it. And likewise, we're going to go into the thing of war on drugs. And you can see people like to use that term. Jail is a revolving door. The system is a revolving door. Right. From the drugs and the system, it's just this vicious cycle that the government, what the government wants, what the government pay for is what they want. Right. So if the government sets up school, which is your Boston public schools or wherever you may be, public schools, Atlanta public schools, and the majority of the kids are failing, it's because that's what the government wants. Right. When they put this so-called war on poverty, this is what they want. They wanted Jake to remain in this state of poverty to keep them down. Right. Go ahead.
So it says and real quick, I just wanted to mention something. It's in the Apocrypha, but I can't find it exactly where it's at. But it says that when the wicked, when they help you, they do it for their own benefit. I forget exactly where that scripture is, and it'll seem like they're trying to help you. It'll look like that on the outset, but really behind the scenes, they're doing it to further make you dependent on themselves, like the brother mentioned.
Right, like that old saying, you could teach somebody how to fish. I mean, you could give somebody a fish, or you could eat for a day. You could teach them how to fish, and they'll, Esau doesn't want to teach you. I heard Elder Tahar say this a while back, and it's so true. Esau doesn't teach you to think; he teaches you how to think, man. And
what to think.
Yeah. So he teaches you how to use your brain, rather than you just using your brain and seeing things the way it is for what it is. Right, bro?
It says here, critics note that the official poverty rate, as calculated by the Census Bureau, has fallen only modestly from 19% in 1964 to 15% in 2012, the most recent year available. But other analysts citing shortcomings in the official poverty measure focus on a supplemental measure also produced by the Census Bureau to argue that more progress has been made. A team of researchers from Columbia University, for example, calculated an anchored supplemental measure, essentially the 2012 measure carried back through time and adjusted for historical inflation, and found that it fell from about 26% in 1967 to 16% in 2012. What's inarguable, though, is that the demographics of America's poor have shifted over the decades. Here's a look at what has and hasn't changed based on the official measure. Note the reference years vary depending on data available.
Yeah, so since Lyndon B. Johnson, and he's supposed to be arrayed as this hero for the so-called black community, for you Jakes, you got pictures of him with Martin Luther King signing the so-called Civil Rights Act into law and whatnot. He's just nothing but a goddamn devil, man.
Right. So can I read the scripture here, bro?
Yep, go ahead, bro. So
this is Psalms 83:1. It says, "Keep not thou silence, O power. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power."
There was a time where these things were hidden, man.
Right.
And now you're seeing brothers flood the internet with this truth. Now we have a voice via YouTube, right?
Right.
We don't got to go through Fox News to get your information anymore, man.
Right.
You got alternative news now, right? So now we can't shut our mouth, man. Now we can't shut our mouth. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, we bringing out the truth. We bringing out facts. We showing you articles and we're filtering it with the scriptures. Modern day events. So the prophets are not being silent no more. Go ahead, bro.
It says, "For lo, thine enemies make a tumult."
Yeah, they make a plan, man. You know what it is to have people in disagreements with each other, but to come together underneath one consensus. You know what I'm saying? The people are always constantly fighting with each other, but they can agree on one thing. That's strong in itself, man. Go ahead.
"And they that hate thee have lifted up the head."
Yeah, all these people hate you. When I was thinking about this today, man. When you walk by a heathen and they give you like that little fake smile and whatnot, man, yeah, that shit burns you, man. You want to fucking break his face, man. Look, don't smile at me at all. You know, don't give me a fake smile. See, all these people have gotten together, right? Go ahead, bro.
It says, "They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones."
Yep.
So if I can touch on that a little bit, so just like with this, what we read with this Lyndon B. Johnson and others like him, they put these policies in place to make it seem like they're helping you, but really it's a crafty counsel, because what the goal is to get the people dependent on the United States government, to get them dependent on it, and then what happens is when they implement that chip, it's just like status quo.
Right.
You're just going with the flow. Now it's just one other thing so that I can get free money. They've gotten Jake used to getting free money, and really it's a whole big thing, man. When you take the father out of the household, the father is the one who understands I have to work to get this money. But you take him out of the household, so that concept of working for what you receive is gone. So now it's easy to implement those things on the woman and say, here we'll give you this free money, we'll give you this assistance, so that you don't have to do anything. So now it becomes embedded in the mind to say, okay, these government assistances are good things. So now when the chip is implemented, they just go with the flow, you know. It says here, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation.
And that cutting off it goes into a lot of things, man. And that crafty counsel is part of cutting. A nation is what, man? When you making up a nation, you want to have a constitution, a way of doing things, and an economy. Your economy should be based off what? The fact, these main principles. Everybody needs shelter. Everybody needs food. Everybody needs clothes, and we need a connection one to another, whether it be a railroad track or a road, and those are the basics of a economy of a nation or something. When you cut those things off from any type of nation, and you supply these things, you make them weak, man. They become like zombies. They're sterile. You paralyze them, man. They're alive, but they can't move, so they can't actually eat on their own. So they got to be food fed some things. They got a shit bag, so where you can't even get up to the bathroom. You got somebody that's wiping your ass, somebody that's doing everything for you. There's no drive to become anything. There's no drive to do anything. You give a woman Section 8 her whole life. I use my aunt for an example. This woman has Section 8. She's got Social Security for her kids, and she receives welfare. Her rent is paid, her food, the Social Security checks that she receives good enough to get her some clothes and some alcohol, make her go out, and she never had a job. She doesn't work. How is she gonna be motivated to do anything if she's been being handed everything from Esau, from the government? How? It's a system that's built off for you to rely on. You building these people, man. And then you turn around and call them lazy and saying that they're abusing the system, but this is what you set forth, man. If you didn't give her a card that gave her food, she will be forced to go out and do her own thing, forced to go out and make money herself, forced to put a roof over her head, forced to work, you know.
They take the spirit of perseverance out of Jake, man. Right. Because we've always had a spirit of we'll make a way.
Yep.
The Heavenly Father will make a way for us. We've always had that spirit, but when you just give them something free, it takes that spirit away from them. Now you don't even put that spirit of ambition on your children. Right. So now your children, my mother gets money anyway. I'll just go out here and do this thing. Yep. You know.
Also, the scriptures say that a gift maketh.
A gift destroyeth the heart.
Yeah. Now, how you told somebody like that? Look, the white man is the devil. When the devil was feeding me, the devil clothed me.
This happened. This happened to us. We had a guy that would come out to the camp, and he would frequent, and and he would, we didn't have any expectations on him to come out and teach, but that was an expectation he put on himself. He said, I got to get out here more, I got to start teaching, blase, blase. Then, when he got his EBT card, he said to one of the brothers that he lives near, he said, I got my EBT card, the white man's okay with me. So that's just a perfect example of that mentality that gets put on you when you get things for free. The scriptures say a gift destroys the heart.
Yeah, he was an idiot, man, because even Esau understands that if you have a slave, the body's a machine. You gotta lubricate the machine. Right. You gotta give him food. Right. Back in the 1800s when we was in hardcore slavery, man, they made sure we had that oatmeal, we got that protein because we're doing the work. So Esau will give you some food, but he's still a goddamn devil. Right. So, as a matter of fact, that was his end of the bargain. That when we came over here, part of the curses was that we would have to go to our enemies and want for all things. He was going to nourish us, man.
It says here, verse 4, it says, they have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation.
Again, so that cutting us off from being a nation is cut us off from being self-sustaining people, man. Self-reliant people, relying on ourselves to do things. Because it's in a man's spirit to naturally want to hunt, man. Jake, you naturally, you want to kill something, man. You want to put something down, man. You want to slice something. You want to shed some blood, man, because and then take that buck, throw it on your back, and go home and feed your family, man. Right. You want to do things like that, but you can't do things like that, man. We've been so pussified here in America that you find yourself pushing a goddamn cart and Stop and Shop, picking up some meat, and you don't know what the fuck this shit is, man. Go ahead, bro.
It says that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. It says, for they have consulted together with one consent for they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee.
Yeah, they in war with Confederate is war, man. They're at war with us, man. And if they're at war with, matter of fact, first and foremost, they're at war with the Heavenly Father. And if they're at war with the Heavenly Father, they're at war with His people, because they see us and Him and Him and us, man. They see it. They see it. So when Esau start talking about a war or something, man, he is that harbinger of death, man. He's coming to kill some shit.
So this is
he speaks with a forked tongue, and a tongue is something that's one. You know what I'm saying? When you have a forked tongue, a fork in the road is two different ways, man. Your tongue is supposed to be singular. It's supposed to be of one thing, of one mind. That's why the scriptures say a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, man. Esau, you can't have the mindset of having a war on poverty, but keeping them in poverty at the same time. It's unstable, man. It's unhealthy, and that's why you see what you see. That's why you see Jake in the projects, man. Jake at the bottom, you know what I'm saying? A guy on reservations and whatnot, and this vicious cycle of poverty. And with poverty comes what, man? With the drugs comes the killing, the stealing, the robbing, all those bad things that come along with it. And Esau acts shocked and surprised to throw up a clip on the news every now and then, just to make Jake look like savages.
So this is Psalms 52:1. It says, "Why boasteth thyself in mischief, O mighty man?"
Yeah, that's what Esau do. He takes pride in being wicked. All out war on poverty, a war under Johnson, a war on drugs. What's this? They call it a trap queen, Nancy Reagan and the boys, man. I mean, them are some of the biggest drug dealers in the world, man. The CIA, man. Your government, your American government, man. They would, and you see just little drug wars in the street where somebody would take out a gangster for selling on their turf, man. Yeah, they were taking out countries, man.
If I can say this real quick, I was just watching this movie, American Gangster, a couple days ago, and they had this guy, not Bumpy Johnson, but who's the guy, Frank Lucas, who they said was this big time drug dealer, which may be true when you look at it for face value, right? But I asked this question. I saw another show that used to come on BET it was also called American Gangster, and they showed the real Frank Lucas. Now this guy couldn't read, he couldn't write, and he couldn't count. You mean to tell me somebody that can't read, write, and count becomes a millionaire by himself? No way. So you have this guy Frank Lucas, who's supposedly or seemingly this big time drug lord, and you mean to tell me he had to connect all the way over there in Korea to bring the opiates over here? I don't think so, man. That United States government was working with this man to bring them drugs over here.
The man was putting dope in bodies,
right?
In American bodies,
right?
Bringing them back it all goes hand in hand with the fact that the CIA and the government was bringing this dope over here,
Right.
man. Not it wasn't no plan that Frank Lucas orchestrated. Hey, let's
Right.
put these in the no. This is something. He was a figurehead, a puppet to put forth in
Right.
that, and it's something
Right.
that they were doing, you
Right.
know. And even on a low scale, he was working for the Italian mob. And we know when you break that mob shit down, that shit goes back to the government, man. Them people are paying. Them people in the mob. It's levels to it, man. You got the Jewish mob, and when you break that down from the cops to the state troopers, all the way to government officials, man, being paid on the backside. And then it all goes back to the government, man.
Right. So let's do a recap. You got the so-called war on drugs that was perpetuated by Esau. You got this war on poverty perpetuated by Esau. You got this all these different wars, war on terrorism
Yep.
perpetuated by Esau.
Yep.
So all these so-called wars on these different events that are so-called endangering our country, has been perpetuated by our own country.
Right.
So how can you say there's a war on this thing when you're the one that's creating that thing that you're fighting against?
When you go back, like the brother said, he did a recap. It's beautiful. When you go back to, they always say when you want to find the root of something, trace the money.
Right.
When you go back to the war on terror, trace the money, man. Go back to. You got Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee, right? Came out of her own mouth and said once that Osama bin Laden worked for the government, man. Worked for the government. So that means they was on the payroll of the United States government, and this is a fact. So let's go back there. Oh, Saddam Hussein. He's a known. He was all in it. He was known working with the CIA. All right. He was a figurehead. He was that guy, right? Muammar Gaddafi. All these people. All right. And with the drugs. All right. Going back to you think it's Ishakar down there that's really calling the shots?
Right.
This thing. Eric Holder, who was the Secretary of Defense. They had Operation Fast and Furious, in which the U.S. government, and this is all public record, the U.S. government was giving funding guns to these Mexican militias. It wasn't until a border patrol cop got killed until they pulled the plug on the operation, and they figured the fact out that it was the government that was giving these so-called Mexican drug cartels these weapons. So again, when you trace everything back, everything goes back to Esau, man.
Right.
Everything goes back to him. The world's problem, the world's cancer, it all goes back to him. I watched a documentary, and the guy said he was one of those young go-ho college students that his lifelong dream was to be a journalist, and most of them start off with little mini documentaries. So he said, I started this documentary off with the goal of finding out, getting behind child what's that called? Child pornography, child trafficking, right? Child trafficking. He got on the plane. He went across seas. He went to Indonesia. He went all over the place. And by the end of the documentary, he said he found out what the problem was. The problem was America. This whole thing was being fueled by American. When you go to Brazil, they look for American tourists because those are the biggest money spenders, and those are the ones that want these little children, man. It's Americans, man.
So here this is Psalms 52:1. It says, "Why boast of thyself in mischief, O mighty man? The goodness of the Most High endureth continually. Thy tongue deviseth mischiefs, like a sharp razor, working deceitfully."
Yeah, the tongue of the so-called white man, his mind works deceitfully, man. And he's a liar, but he's a beautiful liar. And they'll try to tell you things, man. They got these phrases called a beautiful liar, a white lie. You know what I'm saying? They'll tell you that they're a liar, man. You know, they'll tell you, look, this war on terror is to keep you safe. You know, we fought for your freedom to do this and do that. Oh, that shit all sounds good, man. It sounds good, but when you chase the money, you follow the money, you see that this guy is the root behind it all, man. Go ahead.
It says, "Thy tongue deviseth mischiefs, like a sharp razor, working deceitfully. Thou lovest evil more than good."
Yeah, Esau loved evil. I was doing some laundry earlier, and I don't know what it was, but it said, yeah, he said it was a near-death experience, but everybody seemed to love it. And I said to myself, that's Esau for you.
Obsessed with death.
That's Esau. He got this obsession with death, man. He love that shit. Jumping out, you see videos on YouTube of Esau hanging from fucking huge skyscrapers and shit like that.
Yeah, doing handstands.
Yeah, doing handstands because they got an infatuation with death, man. They love death. Dude almost fucking died, and you know what I'm saying? I was fucking wrecked and hammered. And
dude, did you see that?
Man, they love that shit, man. We be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know? We be like, man, you bugging out, man.
Yeah,
but
they everything that is Esau is against the Heavenly Father, man.
Right.
The Heavenly Father created us. He created us to live, man. He said, be fruitful and multiply. The point of us being here on this earth is to be alive.
Right.
You know, to be alive. Things, of course, have a cycle to them, but you don't force the hand of the cycle. You know, you let the cycle take its course.
Esau's about Planned Parenthood. now, you think Planned Parenthood was a place where you could go to, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Get you some baby wipes.
Right.
Get you some baby wipes, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's preparing you to be a be a parent, right? Because it's Planned Parenthood, man. Show you how to make sure that you're ready. This is what it is to be a parent.
Right.
But that's a place that you go to. That's a butchering place,
Yeah,
a baby butchering place, man.
It's a butcher shop.
Yeah, a butcher shop, man. But again, read that part again when he talk about his tongue.
Yep, thy tongue deviseth mischief.
Yeah, he's a fucking liar, man. He'll make it seem that it's this good place, but
man, I woke up one morning, man. You know how you scroll through your YouTube feed, whatever's coming up, whatever's new, whatever. And it was you see these thumbnails, and it was like a chunk of something, and it looked like a little figure on it. So I'm like, what? He sort of found some aliens or some shit. So I clicked on it, and it was a fetus, man.
Baby, yeah.
It was a chunk of flesh, and the baby was sitting on top of the chunk of flesh, and it was moving around, and my heart just dropped, man. Like, how could you even think like I gotta take this baby out of me?
Yeah.
It's living when it's in the man's testicles, man.
Right.
And you taking that life out of that woman's womb, and you killing it, man. That shit is sick.
And just when you think Esau couldn't take it any further, they on the black market selling these things, man.
Yeah. Oh. Me and Adama was talking about it, and I said, why would somebody do that? He said, oh, you don't know? And he showed me this another article about what they doing. You like the brother said, follow the money. Pepsi is buying these fetuses, man. So ask yourself, why?
Yeah.
Why is Pepsi taking the time to buy these fetuses, and then you drink that shit? Oh, it's insane, man. This man is wicked beyond measure, man.
We don't even. That's why we gotta bring it to you, raw and uncut, man. Because they ain't gonna tell you this shit on the news. You know, they ain't gonna tell you what they doing. There's a time that was set forth for us to lift their skirt, the scriptures say, man, to reveal their shame. This is what Esau is doing, man. It was a brother just sent me an article in which they're saying they found billions of rat meat, man, that they was passing it off as chicken. And you know that old saying, everything tastes like chicken. Esau will give you anything and say eat anything and say that it tastes like chicken. They went and interviewed Hannibal, that goddamn guy that was killing people, right?
Yeah.
They interviewed him, asked him what did the meat taste like. What you think he said? He said it tastes like chicken. You know?
So it says here, verse 2, it says, thy tongue deviseth mischiefs, like a sharp razor working deceitfully. Thou lovest evil more than good, and lying rather than to speak righteousness. Salah.
They don't like telling the truth, man. That shit be burning their fucking ass up, man. That's why you be at camp and you catch them in the lie and shit like that, but you can't get no squeeze, no truth out of Esau, man.
That's just at a low level. You get an Edomite come up to the camp, and they'll try to act like they're coming in peace, or they try to act like they're really inquiring about some shit, but they got ulterior motives, man.
Yep.
And this is we know you, Edom.
Right.
We're not surprised when we see you coming up with your hands behind your back and what's this about? We already know what your motives are, man. There's nothing kind or good that comes out of you, man. Especially when you see so-called black people coming out and teaching this word or being positive in any regard.
To their people, right.
Never mind teaching the truth. Positive in any regard. We know that you don't have any good in your heart and in your mind, man.
That's why I say in Habakkuk, the soul that's lifted up in him is not right, man.
Right.
You're not right, man.
Right.
You're not right, and you motherfuckers get on. I've been noticing you get on our comment boards, you try to debunk it. We don't care. We're like a freight train right now, man. There's nothing you can do.
Can't
You
stop
could
this
get
thing,
in the
man.
track and get ran over,
Right.
or just watch the train go by, man.
Or it'll be behoove you to jump on the train. It'll be